guys, and welcome back to my channel. I am Tiara and I am here to do another video. I know it's been forever, but I'm back. I finally got a break from work and from school. I finished off my first semester of my first two classes, so I was dying to do a video for you all. So here I am. So I'm just going to dive right into this video. A lot of you were asking questions about the field of social work. I don't know what you want to know specifically, so I just figured that I would come to you all and put out information that I thought would be helpful to you all regarding my field. So I'm going to start off with the school piece and then the job piece. So if you have any additional questions that I don't cover in this video, please leave them in the comment section below, and I may do a follow-up video just to answer some questions that you may have. So starting with I decided to go to school immediately after high school. I knew I wanted to go to college always. I went to Virginia State University, and there I received my bachelor's degree in psychology. I loved psychology. I still love psychology. It was amazing. So a lot of you are probably wondering, like, why did you switch from psychology to social work? So I did research my last year or two of undergrad, and I hated it. I knew leaving undergrad that I wanted to get my doctorate at some point in my life. And I don't know if you all know, but there are programs that you can actually go to straight out of undergrad and for a 5-year program and go ahead and get your doctorate. In the midst of getting your doctorate, you kind of get a master's and a doctorate, but if you don't finish out the whole program, you end up with nothing. So I called myself going to one of my mentors in college and talking to him to ask, like, what should I do? I don't want to end up doing research, which most doctoral programs you're going to have to do. And even what most master's programs at this point, you have to do some type of research. So his suggestion was go to school to become a social worker, get your master's in social work. You're not going to get much more respect from your peers or from other people by having doctor in front of your name. I don't believe that, but he also told me about becoming licensed as a clinical social worker. And yeah, so I looked up that. VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University, had a program, and that was like 30 minutes away from the college that I was already attending. So I was like, let me apply there and see if I can get in. So I got into VCU in the master's level program, and when I went there, it was totally different from the psychology department. At my previous school, I did feel a little lost in the beginning because I didn't have my bachelor's of social work, but I guess the premise was still the same with the theories and stuff that the social work department used compared to psychologists. A lot of the theories are the same, like behaviorism, the theories of psychosocial development and stuff like that, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, all of those things were the same. So I got the clinical piece right off bat, but social work also has a policy piece. And so they call it macro and micro. Micro is more of like the clinical, working directly with people, and macro is more of the policy side of social work and working with, I guess, building programs and guidelines and stuff like that to help people in need. So it's more on the macro is more of a bigger scale, and micro is more on a smaller scale. So initially I thought that I wanted to go the micro route. So I really wanted to work with the terminally ill or in a hospice, hospital, or medical type setting. So the second year of my master's degree program, I interned at a hospice, and I actually liked it a lot. But after I finished my internship, they didn't have any opening positions available. So I started looking for jobs, and that's I'm going to go ahead and move into the job piece because all of this, I guess, kind of shaped my decision to go back to school. So, okay, there's so many different things that you can do in the field of social work, and it's kind of great because social work is so broad. I know a lot of people think when you think social work, you think specifically Department of Social Services, ripping kids out of their homes, But that's not the only part of social work. There are therapists, there are treatment foster care worker, there are people who work in the court system. Yeah, it's so many different jobs. And there's people who work in the hospital as well as social workers, doctor offices. There's a lot of different things that you can do. However, in order to get your foot in the door to do any of these positions, you have to have experience. So without experience, and most people ask for two years of experience. Without that experience, it's kind of hard to get a job. And I experienced that after my bachelor's degree program and my master's degree program. So after I received my bachelor's, I ended up working as an in-home counselor and a day treatment counselor. And most everyone that I know who has a degree in psychology, a bachelor's level degree in psychology or social work, sociology, and even some, what is the other degree? Criminal justice, even though they're not supposed to. Most of those people end up working with the mental health field in an in-home setting or mental health support or day treatment setting, school, which is in the school. And so I started there, and I hated in-home. Like, I literally hated it. And yeah, so that's another reason why I just couldn't wait to finish off my program, because I really wanted to get into the hospital in the medical setting. And so when I finished my program, I applied to hospices because I did my internship at a hospice. I applied to hospitals, and the only position that the hospice that I was interning at had was a as needed type part-time position, and I knew that wouldn't suit for me because I needed full-time work to sustain life, of course, or to maintain my living and my well-being. But so I decided not to do that. I applied to another program, or my job that I have now, which is a treatment foster care case manager, and I actually ended up receiving that position. And I love what I do, but this whole field is very stressful at times, and there is a lot of burnout. So I just want to put that out there. With any position that you do in this field, there is a lot of burnout. So they stress self-care, which is basically taking care of yourself, doing things to let your emotions not get built up. So self-care is preached widely in the healthcare field or the mental health care field. So I started at my job, and I worked there for a year. And while working there, my whole mindset was I wanted to get my license to become a clinical social worker, because it is great to have your license. So I kept working to do that. And guys, when I tell you I had to jump through like 5 hurdles, it was so difficult. When I first got to my job, I found out that my job wasn't clinical enough. You're supposed to have 15 hours of face-to-face clinical time with the clients that you serve, and I didn't have that many hours. So I tried to reach out to other departments at my job to see if I could do things with them, and then I also tried to ask about getting my supervision to get my license from the agency that I work at, and they basically told me that, yeah, we'll give you the supervision for free, but after that you have to give us 2 years of your time before you go and get a job elsewhere. So didn't really want to do that. Actually, at first I was gonna do it, and I signed up for her to do my supervision for my licensure, and she ended up leaving. So I spent $50 in order to get, set up to have that supervision, and she ended up leaving. So I accepted the position as a director of an in-home agency, which is basically working with children in the home to make sure they don't disrupt in the home and end up having to be removed from their home and placed in foster care or a mental health facility or a residential facility. So did that. In addition to that, at the same place, I also did therapy. I needed stability, and I didn't feel like I had that at the job that I moved to. Also, he had promised me the supervision piece, and it had been about 2 or 3 months since I had started there, and I hadn't received any supervision at all. So I also ended up hating therapy. And now that I think back on it, it actually makes sense, because if I hated in-home counseling, it would make sense that I would hate therapy, because they're kind of the same. One is just in-home and one is inside of an office setting. I didn't really like it. So I ended up going back to my job. Again, love my job, but because of the burnout and how stressful it is, I figured that I would want to do something else in the field, and I don't want to remain stagnant. I just don't want to stay in the same place. I want to grow. I want to, I want to move up. So I told you before, I always wanted my doctorate, so I started looking into, and I always had interest in teaching. So I started looking into different doctoral programs, specifically a EDD, and I called Liberty University, and I spoke with them, and they gave me options of going back to school to get my education specialist, which is it's kind of like a certification or a degree on top of a master's degree, and then you can use all of those classes toward your doctorate degree and finish within 3 to 4 years. So that's what I'm doing now, and I just finished my first 2 classes, and I absolutely loved it. And it's amazing that I'm still learning about the same psychological theories that I learned about in undergrad. So all of those theories that I learned in undergrad in my master's of a program, I just took a educational psychology class, and it was the same exact theories, just related to how I learned or how people learn and teach. So I loved my classes, and it was difficult, but it wasn't impossible. So I'm happy to know that I was able to push through. So I guess I'm going to tell you more about what I do currently as a treatment foster care case manager. There are social workers that work with, well, actually they're not always social workers. They call them like family service workers, and they work with the Department of Social Services. Some of them remove kids, some of them place kids. I work with a placing agency for children who specifically have emotional or behavioral concerns in the form of Axis 1 or 2 diagnoses. I also work with children who have severe medical concerns. They are termed medically fragile. And because of that, it's determined that they'll need more services than a regular or a child without those additional needs. So because of that, they're placed in treatment foster care opposed to regular foster care. So I am the case manager at the treatment foster care agency to ensure that all of the emotional, behavioral, social, educational, and medical needs are met, in addition to independent living needs if they are 16 and above, or actually 13 and above at my agency. So that's what I do now. Tips moving forward. My tip to you all is to know exactly what you want to do when you get out of school. Like, do not wait until you graduate. Know what you want to do before that graduation date. Do not wait to the last minute to see what is needed for you to do what you want to do in your field. I would say that you try to get experience in the summertime. If your school does not offer internships, try to get as much experience as possible. I know for psychology and sociology and social work majors, the goal is to become a qualified mental health professional for children or adults. And in order to do that, you have to have a year of experience working with children. Just get some type of experience so that when you finish your program, you can get a job. Because that's the goal. That's the point of going to school, right? Right. So yeah, that's all I can think of for this video. Thank you for watching. Bye.